You're him? He never knew the SEAL sniper was the ghost's protégé until one shot exposed the truth. The target commander steadied his rifle, breath fogging against the Afghan dawn. One shot had just turned his spotter's skull to dust, an impossible shot from across the valley. He whispered into his radio, "You're him." But the voice behind that bullet wasn't who anyone thought it was. The echo of the gunshot still rolled across the ridgelines when the commander's mind froze. It wasn't just accuracy, it was pattern, a rhythm he had seen before years ago in another war. A ghost he had once heard about through whispers, whose name the U.S. military erased from every file. The ghost. The sniper's spotter lay still beside him, a crimson bloom soaking into the stone. Through the glass, the commander searched the opposite ridge, scanning for movement. Nothing. No shimmer. No heat signature. Whoever made that shot didn't exist on this earth, not to ordinary men. "Find her," he muttered into the radio, unaware the voice that answered belonged to someone with the same quiet discipline he once feared. 2 kilometers away, in the whispering wind and dust, Staff Sergeant Liam Rourke lowered his rifle. He wasn't supposed to be here. This was an Overwatch mission, not a kill order. But the shot was necessary, clean, precise, and absolute. His spotter, Petty Officer Avery Dale, blinked beside him, silent. "That was impossible," Avery breathed. Liam said nothing. His pulse was steady, his breathing slow. He had learned not to celebrate death. Far below, radio chatter erupted through command. Target neutralized. Unknown shooter. Confirm identity. Liam's eyes flicked to the small inscription etched beneath the rifle's bolt. "For the ones who see in silence." It was an old phrase, one his mentor used to whisper when teaching him to shoot. Only one man had ever said those words. The one they called Weiss the Ghost. And that man, his mentor, was supposed to be dead. Before the Marine Corps, before Afghanistan. Liam Rourke had been just another kid from North Carolina, a quiet boy with a steady aim and a father who was more absence than presence. His mother worked double shifts, his brother joined the Navy, and Liam spent his nights shooting cans off fence posts with a borrowed rifle that kicked harder than he did. At 18, he enlisted. At 22, he was already on his 3rd deployment, one of the youngest snipers in his unit. The men called him Echo, because he rarely spoke unless it mattered. But those who had watched him shoot said his calm didn't come from training. It came from inheritance. During a training rotation in Nevada, Liam met an old Navy SEAL who taught long-range marksmanship. The man moved differently, not like an instructor, but like someone who'd lived his entire life one breath away from a bullet. His name was Marcus Hale. The others called him Sir, but the older snipers whispered a different name, the Ghost. Marcus had retired years ago, disappearing off the grid after classified missions in the Middle East. He didn't talk about his service, didn't brag, but his lessons stuck to Liam's bones. "Anyone can shoot," Marcus had said, "but a true sniper, he waits until the world holds its breath. And then he listens, under the desert sun." Marcus taught Liam how to shoot through heat haze, to judge distance not by meters but by moments. When Liam asked why he was teaching him, Marcus smiled, tired, almost broken. "Because," he said softly, "someone once taught me, and I never got to repay it." That summer, Marcus disappeared again. No contact. No goodbye. The military declared him Kael years later. But Liam never believed it. The man's lessons lived too vividly, as if the ghost still lingered behind every pull of the trigger. Years later, eastern Afghanistan, a region so unforgiving even the maps refused to tell the truth. 3 American patrols ambushed. 11 men dead, one name on every intercepted radio. Kael. Kael was a commander with impossible precision, a phantom who moved between ridges faster than satellite relays could catch him. He didn't just outfight them, he outthought them. Liam's unit was deployed to assist an intelligence-led sniper hunt. The target: neutralize Kael before he struck another convoy. But every team sent into the valley came back broken, or didn't come back at all. That morning, Liam sat in the plywood command post, arms folded, as Captain Ellis laid out the mission. You're to set an overwatch 900 meters north of Route 17. Minimal comms. No engagement unless eyes-on verified, Ellis said. Intel says Kael's using counter-snipers, Avery muttered. Ellis nodded. And whoever he's using knows what he's doing. Shot profiles show US-grade discipline. Someone trained him. That word hung in the air. Trained. Liam studied the satellite imagery, the valleys like veins on an open wound. His mind drifted to Marcus, his breathing, his silence. The way he always said, even ghosts leave footprints if you know where to look. Hours later, they were dropped into the valley under cover of night. No moon, no sound except wind scraping the rock. Liam carried his suppressed .300 Winchester Magnum, the same model Marcus had once used. He never imagined that the valley they entered was the same one Marcus had bled in years ago, the one that had made the ghost vanish. They reached the ridge before dawn. From their perch they could see the narrow road twisting like a scar across the valley floor. The convoy was due in 40 minutes. Liam unfolded a worn map, edges torn and taped. His handwriting filled the margins. Observations, wind cycles, moon phases. But below the scribbles were faint pencil marks almost erased. Handwriting that wasn't his, Marcus's. He recognized the curve of the numbers. The range notation, 890 meters, 70 slope. West wind. It was as if Marcus had already mapped this valley, already hunted this enemy. Avery noticed him staring. You okay? Liam nodded, but his pulse said otherwise. He adjusted the scope, scanning the opposite ridge. And then, there, two figures, one with a rifle, one with a spotting scope. Their setup was surgical, clean, the same way Marcus used to build his shot nests. A shiver crawled through Liam's spine. He didn't know if it was recognition or dread. Range, he whispered. 870, Avery replied. Winds shifting west at 8 clicks. Liam exhaled, the sound soft as prayer. Copy. The scope steadied. His finger settled on the trigger. The man across the valley moved with quiet confidence, his form precise, his rhythm familiar. When the first shot cracked, the spotter fell instantly. The second man spun, but not out of fear, out of knowing. His radio hissed, and through static, Liam heard 3 words. You're him. Aren't you? And for the first time, Liam realized this wasn't just another mission. It was an inheritance, a reckoning, and a message. Fired through time by the only man who ever taught him what silence meant. Liam's breath caught. You're him. The words carried across the radio, distorted, faint, but real. He froze behind his rifle, trying to process them. Avery looked over, confusion tightening her voice. What did he say? Liam didn't answer. His mind had already gone somewhere else. To Nevada. To the desert sun. To Marcus Hale, his mentor, his ghost. He remembered how Marcus had once warned him. One day you'll meet someone on the other side of the scope who doesn't want to kill you. They'll want to understand you. And that's when you'll realize war isn't about enemies. It's about reflections. The man across the valley wasn't dead. Liam could see faint movement. An arm twitching, a hand dragging itself toward a rock. The shot hadn't finished him. Not yet. Liam hesitated. His instincts said, finish it. His training said, confirm kill. But his gut whispered something else. Wait. He adjusted the scope, zooming in closer. The man's face was covered in dust and blood, but there was something hauntingly familiar about his eyes. Steady, gray, unreadable. The kind Marcus once described when teaching him about the other side. Then the radio crackled again. You shouldn't be using that rifle. Liam blinked. What? The voice on the other end rasped through static, faint but certain. That rifle belonged to a man I trained. He was the only one who could make that shot. Liam's grip tightened on the receiver. The mountains went quiet, and as if they too were listening. Who are you? He asked, but the radio went silent. Only the wind answered. Liam looked down at the rifle, the custom bolt-action Winchester, etched with words Marcus once carved. For the ones who see in silence, it wasn't possible. Unless Marcus Hale hadn't died in that mission all those years ago. Unless the man they were hunting. Kael was him. By dusk, command called off the operation. They had confirmation of 2 enemy KIA, 1 unconfirmed. Extraction in 12 hours. Avery packed up the gear, but Liam stayed by the scope, watching the fading ridge. You think it's over? She asked. He didn't answer. He couldn't. His mind was trapped in the radio's echo. Later, under a half-collapsed tent and a dim red light, Liam opened his field notebook, the same one Marcus gave him years ago. The pages were worn, smudged, but the last entry still burned in faded ink. If you ever find me, don't come to kill me. Come to understand why. Liam stared at it for a long time, then whispered, You knew this would happen, didn't you? Avery pretended not to hear. She had learned that some silences were sacred. That night, sleep never came. Liam lay awake, replaying Marcus's lessons. How to breathe through fear. How to wait until the world went still. How to tell when someone was looking for redemption, not survival. When dawn broke, he made his decision. He wasn't calling for exfil. He was going to find Kael himself, to see if the impossible was true. He left Avery with a note. If I don't return by nightfall, leave without me. And tell command, the ghost isn't gone. By mid-morning, he was halfway down the ravine, moving through dead grass and fractured stone, guided only by instinct and memory. Every footstep felt like a heartbeat echoing through time. Every gust of wind carried a whisper that sounded like Marcus's voice. He wasn't chasing a target anymore. He was walking toward a truth that refused to stay buried. Liam found him just before noon, collapsed against a boulder, rifle half buried in sand. Blood darkened along his sleeve. Kael, the ghost in the mountains. The man lifted his head slowly, eyes narrow, breathing shallow. For a long time, neither spoke. The wind howled between them, carrying dust and silence. Finally, Kael said, You took your shot well. Liam lowered his weapon but didn't approach. Who are you? The old man's lips curved faintly. That depends. Who do you think I am? Liam swallowed hard. Marcus Hale. For a moment, the world stopped. Kael's gaze softened, and in that instant, the illusion broke. He was older now, scarred, worn, his hair streaked gray. But it was him. The same calm voice, the same presence that once steadied Liam's hands. You're alive, Liam whispered. Marcus chuckled weakly. Ghosts don't die, son. We just stop showing up on rosters. Liam dropped to his knees beside him, eyes wide with disbelief. Why? Why disappear? Why let everyone think you were dead? Marcus looked out at the valley, where the light bent through dust. Because sometimes the only way to stop killing is to become the thing that terrifies both sides. He coughed, blood wetting his chin. They made me a weapon, Liam. I became everything I swore to destroy, so I vanished, went where the silence was loud enough to hear myself think. Liam's throat tightened. You were training them. The insurgents. Marcus shook his head. I was training them to stop fighting. But someone twisted my mission. The man you shot beside me. He wanted chaos, not peace. He turned his eyes toward Liam, pale gray, just like before. I heard your shot and knew it was you. The way you breathed. The way you waited. I taught you that. The valley fell into silence again. 2 generations of ghosts, finally seeing each other in daylight. Marcus leaned back against the stone, the weight of years pressing down on him, I wanted you to be better than me, he said softly, but I also knew the world would try to turn you into me. Liam's hands trembled. You were my hero, and you disappeared. I didn't disappear, Marcus said. I stepped out of their wars. But when I saw what they were becoming, mercenaries with my tactics, I tried to stop it from the inside. That's why they called me a traitor. He looked at Liam with tired pride. And now you've come full circle. The student hunts the teacher. Tears blurred Liam's sight. I didn't know. I thought I was killing a terrorist. Marcus smiled faintly. Maybe you were killing what I'd become. He reached for something in his vest pocket, a small notebook wrapped in torn camouflage tape. This belongs to you now, he said. Finish what I couldn't, tell them the truth. That ghosts aren't monsters. They're just men who stayed silent too long. Liam took the notebook, his fingers trembling. Inside were coordinates, mission reports, and one final message scrawled in Marcus's uneven hand. If the shot ever finds me, I'll know it came from someone who learned to see without hate. The old man's breathing slowed. The wind carried his last words like a prayer. You made the right shot, Liam. Then he went still, eyes open, peaceful, looking past the horizon. Liam stayed there for a long time, hand on the rifle that once belonged to the ghost. Above him, the valley seemed to breathe again. The war felt smaller, the silence heavier. He whispered, Rest easy, old man. I'll finish what you started. And for the first time in years, the wind didn't sound like gunfire, it sounded like forgiveness. The sun sank low as Liam dug into the hard Afghan soil. His hands were raw, his breath steady. He refused to let anyone else touch the body. Marcus Hale, the ghost, would not be left for the vultures or the desert wind. He laid him to rest in a shallow grave between two boulders overlooking the valley, a place that caught the first light of dawn and the last whisper of dusk. Marcus had always said that the best snipers were part of the landscape, and now he truly was. Liam placed the rifle across the mound, then set the notebook beside it. He whispered the words carved on the barrel, for the ones who see in silence. He stayed there for hours after, unmoving, every sound around him, the rustle of grit, the echo of wind, reminded him of the lessons that shaped his soul. Marcus had been a myth, a monster, a legend, but beneath all that, he had just been a man who couldn't live with what war made of him. When Liam finally rose, the stars had bloomed across the sky. He touched the dirt once more and murmured, You were never the ghost, old man. You were the light in the dark. As he turned to leave, something shimmered faintly in the starlight, a metal tag half buried in the sand. He picked it up. It read, Hail MG and service number redacted. On the back, in tiny engraved letters, Forgive me. Liam clenched it in his fist, and for the first time, he let himself cry. When Liam returned to base, the world looked different. The mountains weren't enemies anymore. They were witnesses. Avery ran to meet him breathless. Where the hell were you? Command thought you were dead? He interrupted quietly. Yeah, me too. She studied him, the dirt on his uniform, the distant look in his eyes, and knew not to push further. Did you find him? Liam nodded slowly. Yeah, I found him, and he wasn't who they said he was. He handed her the notebook Marcus had given him. She flipped through it, eyes widening at the codes, coordinates, and signatures. Records of missions no one was supposed to know existed. Liam, this changes everything. He met her gaze. That's the point. When they returned to headquarters, Liam submitted the notebook directly to Captain Ellis. The room went silent as Ellis flipped through the pages. This is classified beyond you, the captain said sternly. Then classify me, Liam replied, because I'm not burying another man's truth just because it makes someone uncomfortable. Ellis stared at him for a long time before closing the notebook. You just painted a target on your back, Sergeant. Liam nodded. Then I'll stand still, like he taught me. That night, as he cleaned Marcus's rifle, he realized something. The ghost had never wanted to vanish. He just wanted someone to finally see him for who he was. And now Liam had done that, not with a report, but with remembrance. The days that followed were chaos. Intelligence officers swarmed his tent. Files were confiscated, interviews scheduled, and every word Liam said was dissected by people who had never felt sand in their teeth or fear in their lungs. They called Marcus Hale a deserter, a traitor, a fabrication of myth. Liam listened in silence. When asked why he refused to retract his report, he said, "Because I was there when the ghost died and he wasn't a traitor." He was a man who carried too much. They threatened disciplinary action, he accepted it. They threatened to erase his story. He told them they couldn't erase silence. Weeks later, a package arrived in his quarters. No return address, no markings. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It read, "Sometimes truth doesn't need to be spoken to be remembered." Hellangels had done it. He had submitted Marcus's notebook into an archive so deep no one could destroy it. A hidden truth preserved, waiting for history to be brave enough to read it. That night, Liam walked out to the perimeter fence, where the desert spread endlessly under the moon. He set down Marcus's dog tag on a rock and whispered, "They'll never know the whole story, but maybe they'll know the right part." The wind picked up, scattering dust into the stars. He imagined Marcus's voice again. "You see, Liam, ghosts don't haunt people. They guide them home." 2 months later, Liam was back in North Carolina. The quiet of the countryside felt almost foreign after years of war. He sat on the porch of his mother's old farmhouse, the night buzzing with crickets and memory. In front of him lay an open letter addressed to the Department of Veterans Affairs, an official statement about Marcus Hale's actions. But halfway through writing it, Liam stopped. The words felt too small for the man they described. Instead, he wrote something else, something simple. "Marcus Hale was more than a soldier. He was a man who taught me that precision is nothing without purpose, that silence can speak louder than violence, and that sometimes the hardest shot to take is the one that forgives." He folded the paper and placed it inside an envelope, not to be mailed, but to be left under a stone on his family's land. Beside it, he placed Marcus's dog tag. The next morning, Liam walked down the dirt road with his rifle slung over his shoulder, breathing in the clean air. He wasn't a ghost anymore. He was a man carrying another man's peace. As he reached the ridge overlooking the valley, he raised the rifle once more, not to kill, but to look through the scope and remember. Through the glass, the world seemed quieter, softer, the kind of silence Marcus used to talk about. And in that silence, Liam swore he could still hear him say, "Good shot, kid." Liam smiled. For the first time in years, the echo didn't hurt, it healed. Months passed, but the story wouldn't die. Reporters whispered about an unnamed soldier who'd uncovered proof that a ghost from classified operations had been real. Veterans forums filled with fragments, mentions of the ghost, of a rifle buried in the desert, of a young sniper who refused to stay silent. Liam stayed away from it all. He didn't correct the rumors or claim the story. Marcus Hale hadn't taught him to seek credit. He'd taught him to aim for truth. Instead, Liam began training new recruits at the range. The younger soldiers were eager, reckless, hungry for glory. He saw himself in them, the version of him that used to believe a perfect shot could solve anything. One day, a nervous recruit asked, "Sir, is it true you trained under the ghost?" Liam paused, then smiled faintly. "No one trains under a ghost, son. You just listen when the silence talks." The recruit frowned, confused, but Liam didn't explain further. Some lessons weren't meant to be told. They were meant to be earned. Spring came early that year. On a quiet morning, Liam visited a small military cemetery outside Fayetteville. Rows of white stones stretched into the mist. He carried no flowers, just a folded flag and a single bullet shell engraved with the name Hale. He knelt by an unmarked patch of earth beneath a newly planted oak. It wasn't where Marcus was buried. No one knew where that grave truly lay, but it was where Liam had chosen to remember him. He spoke softly, almost afraid to disturb the air. "You know, old man, I think I finally get it. You weren't running from the world. You were just waiting for someone to see it the way you did, through a scope, through the stillness, through the mercy." A breeze swept through the branches, and for a heartbeat, it sounded like a whisper, distant, approving, proud. Liam smiled through the ache in his chest. He placed the shell beneath the oak roots and stood. "Rest easy, Ghost, I'll take it from here." As he walked away, the wind rose again, rattling the leaves like a salute. That night, he set up his old rifle on a hill overlooking the town, not to fire, but to see. Through the scope, the lights below shimmered like constellations. People laughing in cafes, cars passing, children running, life chaotic and beautiful. For the first time, Liam didn't look for targets. He looked for meaning. Every flicker of light was a heartbeat he'd fought to protect. Every echo of laughter a reminder that his story, Marcus's story, had been worth something. He took a slow breath and whispered, "You were right, Marcus. The hardest shot is the one you never take." He lowered the rifle and smiled. A single tear slid down his cheek, caught by the night breeze and vanished into the dark. Somewhere out there, a ghost finally rested and the man he'd taught finally lived. Legends aren't born from the wars they fight, but from the truths they leave behind. Marcus Hale, the sniper they called the Ghost, taught one soldier that silence can be a kind of mercy, and that legacy isn't measured by medals, but by the lives we choose not to take. You're him. Sometimes the ghosts we chase are just the echoes of the people who made us who we are.